every year we do a price tag on the American dream. What is the American dream? Well, the price tag for you is different than it is for me.
Yeah.
But it's the things that we might reasonably want. We
Okay.
might want to be able to take an annual vacation. We might want to own a home. We might want to have pets, marry off one of our kids, send them to school. Well, an annual vacation is a big part of everybody's American dream. As it turns out through our surveys, they're looking at ways to be able to manage their financial life to afford it.
Welcome to the Luxury Travel Innovators podcast. I'm your host, Adam Deflorian, founder and CEO of AZDS. Let's take off. Today I'm joined by Caleb Silver, Chief Business Editor, People Inc., and Editor-in-Chief of Investopedia. Caleb, thanks for joining me today.
Good to be with you.
Can you tell our listeners a little bit about your background?
Yeah, well, I'm a business journalist, but I'm really a storyteller. That's what I like to call myself. And I've been in business journalism 30 years, but I got here in a very weird way. I grew up in the restaurant business in Santa Fe, New Mexico, but I wanted to make documentaries. I used my tip money to buy a TV camera. I became a cameraman, a stringer for my own production company, got hired when I moved to New York to shoot for a bunch of the business news networks. And that was a time where the internet bubble was starting to get frothy and bubbling, and everybody was into stocks and trading. And I was a cameraman doing this for all these new networks, CNBC and Bloomberg. And ultimately, I got hired by one of them to be a producer. But the ability to shoot and edit was what really got me into the media business. But it's been business journalism for the last 3 decades.
Amazing. How long have you been here in New York?
I've been in New York about 30 years.
Is this the coldest winter that you remember?
This is the coldest one I can remember from a sustained period of time.
Yeah.
Every single day, you're just hoping it's going to crack, and it's not. And I'm a skateboarder. I skate all over town, and it's been really tough for me.
Yes.
Even the cold doesn't bother me. It's the salt and the slush, and it's just not going anywhere. But we'll get through it.
Yeah. So you see financial trends, before most of us even really hear about them. How does your vantage point shape the way you view luxury travel spending amongst, high net worth individuals?
Yeah, well, what we see a lot of is intent, and that is sort of the magic of a lot of our publications and our websites and properties here at People Inc. We have a lot of them that people come in search of something, and they wind up on food and wine, or they wind up looking for the next great luxury vacation or the next cruise they want to take with their family, and they're on travel and leisure. So we're getting a lot of that inbound intent from people and what they're thinking about, keywords, things that matter to them, but we're also seeing it reflected in the way people behave through our sites and in what people are responding to across other channels like social. So we do get a lot of insight because we're there when they're thinking about doing the thing or they want to learn more about it, and then they take action often through our sites.
So it's inspiration, and you guys have all of that kind of, you can see it right first because of the volume of traffic coming in, right? It's inbound inspiration, and then you can see actions. Do you see differences right now in the market in terms of overall spending between, high net worth, ultra high net worth, and mid-tier? Is there any?
Yeah, and you don't have to be us to notice that.
Yeah.
That's just happening. Get on any airplane, the front of the plane stacked and stuffed, and that's just the trend that's been going on for a while, but you see the continuation of it, and you see there's a lot of momentum still behind it, especially in the top 10%. They want great experiences. They're willing to pay for them. They want value in those experiences, but they still want the thing that nobody else has, or the unique moment in time to capture the photograph, to have the memories with the family. And that, as you know, being in this business, that's been going on for the past 4 or 5 years.
100%. And we see the word value that you use is the term that everybody that I've been interviewing is talking about, right? It's not that high net worth individuals don't want to spend money or pay the prices. They just want to receive real value for what they're spending.
Yeah.
And that's it's understandable because prices have gone up so dramatically.
Yep.
I mean, like in the last, the real price increases, of course, post-COVID, but what have you seen in the last, let's call it 24 months?
Aggressive pricing, especially in air travel, because it's competitive, but also it's just harder and harder to get where you want to go. The old flight that you used to think cost $300 every time you wanted to go home and see your parents is now $450 at a minimum.
Absolutely.
Cars that you renting a week, a rental car for a week, that was $350. That's now like $700, and you're like, how did that happen?
Exactly.
So that's just been a price creep that's been going on across almost every industry, but especially services and especially travel, and you see it in food as well. It's just this inflation that's, not necessarily clocked by CPI on an exact level, but it does blend into the overall picture. And the overall picture is things are getting more expensive. Now, we were talking about that word value, and words really matter. I'm an editor, and we focus on these things, but words matter. The words people use when they're searching for something, trying to get smart about something, tells us a lot about their mentality, and you can easily see that translate into spend.
Do you see any relief coming for anyone, or do you see it at least be stagnant, or do you think it's going to keep going up?
No, the cure for high prices is high prices. Ultimately, right? Consumers tap out.
Yeah.
When they just don't feel like it's worth it anymore. But we have proven that we are not there yet. And even though credit card debt is an all-time high and interest rates, especially on credit card APRs, are near all-time highs, people continue to spend. And they're not willing to give up the opportunity for the experience if they can get it at the right price. So when I said words matter, value is an important word. We're not seeing as much affordable, the word affordable dropping in as much or cheapest. We're seeing that word value.
What do you think about emerging financial technologies like crypto, NFTs, blockchain? How are they impacting travel? Do you see the airlines at some point starting to accept it? What do you think?
Well, you know what's weird? When I think about it, I don't think they're per se impacting travel as much as the fact that airlines, through their rewards programs and their loyalty programs, that is a form, right, of DeFi. Right? They have their own ecosystem there where they're rewarding you for your loyalty by giving you points back or cash back or the ability to get a free night here. That is a currency that is sort of off of the U.S. Treasury, and that's kind of an adoption that we've seen the travel industry take up over the years. Crypto is not all that different. Now you could see how blockchain could impact travel and travel reservations, and even ownership or part-time ownership of a timeshare. You could see it blending into that. You see it certainly in luxury properties as well, but it's not as if cryptocurrency has come to eat the travel industry.
Interesting. Do you think that there will be, because of legacy systems like the GDS and everything that, has always caused problems in terms of overall booking and the way that distribution landscape works, right? You have travel advisors booking through GDS, you have direct channels. Of course, United Airlines just announced, Scott Kirby said, a day or two ago, they just finished replacing their last piece of legacy technology, and he was celebrating it on LinkedIn. Do you see, though, problems in travel given the complexity of how their accounting systems work and how their overall, systems function? Do you see problems implementing these new terms, types of payment?
There always will be.
Yeah,
and it'll be bumpy and it'll be tough. Probably, as these new technologies get adopted. But the travel industry has been getting disrupted for years, and you're right in the middle of it as well. But you see this firsthand. It has been disrupted since we had the matchmaking with companies like Expedia and Travelocity, even before that. Now think about planning a vacation with your family now, and ask any one of these AI agents what's the best itinerary if we want to do all of these things at the right price, in the right places, in this time frame, at the right season. You're going to get a really good answer and probably plan your itinerary right off of that.
Overall, as far as, at Investopedia, data drives decisions every day. How can luxury travel brands use analytics to anticipate what affluent travelers want even before they know it themselves? And do you have any examples of it?
Yeah, well, like I said, words matter. So we track all the keywords, all the big keywords we have. We have about a couple thousand that are very important to us that really tell the story of how we're feeling as consumers and how we're feeling as investors. So we're constantly seeing what are people searching for, but we also know search has been disrupted through a lot of AI technology as well. So reading through that as well and implementing our own sort of AI journeys on our site so that we can get people to where they want to get to. Ultimately, when people get to Investopedia, where we have been delivering free financial education for 26 years, they have an intention. Yeah. How do I invest? How do I save? How do I afford the things that I want, like travel? So we're looking at, every year we do a price tag on the American dream. What is the American dream? Well, the price tag for you is different than it is for me.
Yeah.
But it's the things that we might reasonably want. We might want to be able to take an annual vacation. We might want to own a home. We might want to have pets, marry off one of our kids, send them to school. Well, an annual vacation is a big part of everybody's American dream. As it turns out through our surveys, they're looking at ways to be able to manage their financial life to afford it. And I think that is blending into things like home ownership, especially with younger generations.
Yep.
Home affordability is at an all-time low. Super hard to get into that first-time home for young buyers who can't afford the mortgage or can't necessarily afford the down payment.
Yep.
But a lot of them are rethinking that, especially post-pandemic, to say, I think the life I want to build is more about experiences. Maybe I'll continue to rent as long as my family and I can go to Portugal for 3 weeks, or we can go to Australia and do something we've never done before. So I think that actually helps the travel industry long term.
Now, it's interesting you mentioned that, right? Because on the other end of the spectrum, on the ultra high net worth and the luxury side of the market, I've also been reading quite a few articles in Financial Times and others that have been covering the fact that ultra high net worth individuals are becoming more asset light. So it's not necessarily about not owning their home, like we mentioned on one end of the spectrum, but it's about, less things, right? More travel, more experiences. What do you think about that? I mean, it's similar, but it's the opposite end from a financial perspective.
Yeah, in the financial services industry, everyone's talking about this great wealth transfer, $80 trillion going from baby boomers down to younger generations. P.S. I'm still waiting for my wealth transfer. I feel like it's going the other way right now. That said, that's supposed to be, that is allegedly happening, and we know that Gen X and higher have done incredibly well through investing in asset growth over the last 30 to 40 years, especially the last 20 years, and they've built up a lot of wealth. And a lot of that wealth is tied up either in the capital markets, in the stock market, or in homes and in real estate all over the world, some of it in gold, some of it in other places. They want to reduce their tax burden, be able to pass some of it down or not hold it as much so that they can experience life. They know it's precious. We learned a lot of that, sadly, during the pandemic. I think that experience instinct is as on fire as it's ever been.
Not related to travel, but just because it's so wild the time that we're currently living in. What's the deal with gold and silver?
They are safe haven assets. They've always been that way. And in times of uncertainty, whether it's economic uncertainty or it's uncertainty across the capital markets, investors flock to it because you can touch it, you can hold it, you can go see it in your vault, you can put it around your neck, you can hide it in the safe in the basement, and so you see that happening. You also see demand for it from an industrial perspective. We need gold and silver to manufacture all the things we use these days, but you've also seen big investors, and I'm talking about institutional investors and central banks, sovereign wealth funds, universities piling into it because our global economy is being transformed. Okay. It's been happening for the past really decade or so, but in the last year under this administration, it's very radically being transformed. That creates uncertainty. That creates the inability to sort of forecast the future. That's why you've seen some recent shakiness in the stock market. That's why you've seen the dollar decline. Mm-hmm. Investors want to hold gold because it feels like something secure. And even though it's been volatile, that has sort of been the trend over the last 5 years.
And what about silver?
Silver is what they call the devil's metal, even though my last name is Silver, I don't believe that. Yeah. But it trades along with gold. It's a proxy. It's much cheaper, so it's a much faster market. Okay. And it has been sort of like almost like a meme stock in terms of the hype trade around silver. Now, there's demand for it, but not at these prices. Things have gotten out of control. The thing about gold and silver and commodities like that, they're very good in times of uncertainty. They've been the best performing assets over the last 5 years, better than stocks, right? And certainly better than crypto, but they don't compound like stocks. They don't pay you a dividend. They just weigh a little bit more in your safe.
They do. And they I guess on the travel booking side, we have RevRaise, which processes $4.5 billion worth of travel transactions a year. I guess I better start figuring out how to accept gold and silver.
Yeah. At first you were trying to figure out how to accept Ethereum and NFTs, and now you're like, actually, I think I'd like some hard metal. Please send in your ducats.
Exactly. I guess it's we can hold it, we can feel it, so Absolutely. It works. Do you think there's a link between how someone invests and the type of travel that they pursue?
Absolutely, and we see it pretty clearly. Not only do we see it in advertiser interest from our partners who want to appeal to the high net worth investor or the investor that is building sort of their investing journey and the experiences they can offer along with that. It's no surprise that some of the biggest brokerage firms have credit cards and travel credit cards as well. They know what's going on, and they know that this is these are people that have taste. They're aspirers. They want to have the finer things, afford the finer things, but be able to build their wealth through investing to get to the finer things. I see it over and over, and I've seen this trend over the past few years. More financial services bleeding into travel conferences, into food conferences, right? And the other way around as well. That mix goes really well together. As it turns out, food, wine, finance, travel, all these things go really well together.
Now, that leads me to Built. What do you think those guys are doing? They just have their whole travel program now. Rent is typically the largest, as we just talked about, a lot of lack of home ownership in terms of the younger generations. Therefore, rent is their biggest expense every month. And now they get points for that, which they can then use to redeem with travel. What do you think about it?
I think that's one of the smartest ideas I've seen in financial services in a long time. Put it together, right? People want solid platform experiences. They want the card, the product that does all the things, right?
Yep.
There's a reason our iPhones are such a successful product. They do all the things. Well, Built has come into this space and said, let's put it all together,
Yep.
right? And there's other services like that too that are rewarding you for making the choice to have the experience, but not necessarily at the expense. You can pay your rent, get travel points, and use them. Genius idea.
Yeah. And do you think what I don't understand how it functions, and I'm curious if you have any input on this. I haven't done a lot of research with it, but you have your Built points, but you also can link it to Bonvoy and the other membership programs. You're almost getting double points. I don't know how they do it.
Right. Right. They're making deals.
Yeah.
Because they're seeing this connection, this through line, right, from the emerging affluent consumer, whether they are Gen Y, Gen X, are on their way up, Gen Z on their way up, and they want these to be able to do these things, and they have to solve the affordability problem. And any platform that allows you to do that and have visibility, but also get rewarded for it and build loyalty, that's working. There is a reason that these high-end credit card, premium credit card companies are seeing continued growth, even as they raise their fees. Massively. They're offering the benefits and the loyalty that people actually want. They know, and look at Amex Platinum raising its fee and Chase Sapphire Reserve following along. They're seeing customer growth. No churn, growth, because they're offering more and more with that. And that is an economy, this economy of rewards and loyalty that I think is underappreciated.
And it's interesting because you see it so firsthand every day, right? But of course, they reinvented Sapphire Reserve, right? And the Chase Travel program, and Jason's fantastic. And what they've done with developing the edit into this program to compete with Fine Hotels and Resorts is smart. They've added a lot to the value that you get, as we mentioned the value word again. Then American Express comes out, and we're reinventing the Platinum card, right? It's not just the card itself. You have all of these additional benefits, which more than pay for the annual fee. But what I find interesting, I'd love your input on, you have to sign up for it all. Do you think, it's genius, right? Because these, American Express and Chase, you have to go, accept all these offers. You have to go sign up for every single perk. And probably 70, I don't know the number, but I'd guess 70, 80% don't do it.
No, they don't do it. And then they like to remind you of it.
Yeah.
But what do they do? It's actually working enough for them, and they are instigating spending with their partners.
Yeah.
So if you're a Lululemon who's now a partner of Amex, I'd never gone into a Lululemon in my life.
Yeah.
But I knew that there was a $75 credit there, and I was like, I'm sure going to use that credit.
Yeah.
Got a wonderful pair of sweats. I'll probably go back. Right? They have been able to nudge me into a product or into a store that I wouldn't otherwise not have gone into. Not that I don't admire them. It's just not my jam. That said, they did that, right? And they're doing that across other things. Oh, I better book a hotel before I lose that credit.
Yeah.
Oh, I better book my flight before I lose that credit. Oh, I'm going somewhere. How do I use my credit? I want to make sure I'm getting my table at Resi. They've done this very well, and they've made their partners, this ecosystem, very successful in doing so.
I totally agree. Do you think that Chase has been trying to keep up with Sapphire Reserve? How do you compare the products for travel, for luxury consumers? What would you say?
Yeah, well, I guess it depends how you travel, where you travel. A business traveler might appreciate, depends on your routes, but I think you've seen business travelers more flocking to the Platinum card just because of the routes and the choices and some of the cities and the Delta hubs, obviously. But Chase is coming, and they got the money to do it.
Totally.
And just you watch throughout, the spring sports season on the Olympics and everything, they're going to be out in a big way. And
it's an enormous growth for them, but also you have Capital One. You have Citi. Everybody's getting into everybody wants the big travel spenders on their programs, and they're developing hotel programs that back in the day it was just Fine Hotels and Resorts, and now everybody has a program.
Everybody's got a program. Everybody's got a partner.
And lounges.
And they know that ultimately, no matter what, we won't be cutting back on the experience spend. No matter what, even if we're not, maybe we won't take a flight, but maybe we'll do a family drive instead, or do some national parks, or do something. People aren't going to cut back on that. They're going to try to make it as affordable as possible. You go from the lowest fee cards, the Wells Fargo autograph cards. I think that's a $95 or $200 fee, and they still offer a pretty wide variety of hotels. Now, it's not your luxury fine resorts, but for the people that want that at that price, that don't want to pay the fee, they have choice now too. So everybody's in the game, and again, this is one of those things where the tide should lift all boats if spending on travel and leisure continues.
Do you see any differences in value between the programs by point? Like, do you guys ever look into that? Like, how much
Absolutely.
value between points?
I'm going super deep on that
Yeah.
right now because I'm fascinated again by this rewards and loyalty economy. I believe it's this kind of almost like a shadow economy.
Yeah.
Very important
Like crypto,
to
like
consumers, right?
Yeah.
Very important to consumers. So, you watch really what the dollar value is per point,
Okay.
right? Or the point value per dollar. You can flip it on its head and say, what am I actually getting?
Exactly.
Sometimes a point isn't really worth a point when you compare it to the other. So, a point from one credit card company could be worth a dollar could be worth 1.6, but for another it could be 1.3. It all matters when you're trying to add it up. But the thing is, as a consumer, you got to figure out what are the things that are important to me when I'm choosing my loyalty, when I'm choosing my rewards. Where do I actually spend my money?
Yeah.
And they're going to end up, it's going to be a lot easier to make that choice, especially with technology.
And it's actually hard to value, right? Because you have the earning potential of the points, right? That's one thing. And in some cases, you might get 2 points or 5 points for specific travel use, right? But then the redemption, is there a credit back, a 30% redemption credit? So you have to, it's quite complex math, actually, to truly put them side by side and look at them.
Yeah, and it's created this entire ecosystem across social media of people that want to explain it to
Exactly.
you, whether they're affiliate marketers or just
Yep.
trying to make a name and get a following. People want to explain to you every single thing you need to sign up for, and you might be missing the greatest perk ever if you didn't sign up for this, and all of a sudden you're 3 websites deep and you've given your information to a bunch of companies you've never heard of.
That's right.
Because you don't want to miss out on that opportunity. So that is another one of those sliding door effects of this.
What do you think about AI in terms of investment currently today?
Well, it's everywhere. So,
Yeah.
Is it the type of thing that is going to make businesses more efficient, more profitable? Absolutely. More productive? Definitely. But is it going to come at the expense of a lot of jobs out there? That's a big concern.
Yes.
It has generated a ton of growth in this economy. If you look at the headline numbers, the economy is growing a lot more than we thought it would be. Now, some of that's because we didn't get the tariffs that we thought we were going to get, but some of that's the fact that there's so much spending. That spending comes from consumers, and the high-end consumers drive the most, and it comes from businesses spending on CapEx, capital expenditures, like building out AI infrastructure. That's why the economy is growing so much. And on Main Street, the real feel doesn't feel that great a lot, in terms of consumer sentiment. Hasn't stopped spending, but the headline numbers look really good.
As far as global markets and high net worth individuals, for the longest time in travel, right? Any of the clients that I mentioned that we work with, right? The 70%, I'd say 60 to 80% of their business comes from U.S. customers, right? Who typically tend to be the highest spenders. What are you seeing out of India, China, these other emerging markets in terms of massive populations? You need a much smaller percentage to still have a ton of people. What are you seeing in terms of spend and above middle class spend coming out of those markets?
Yeah, well, I like to watch what's happening here in New York City because we're obviously a travel magnet, or had been, and what's happening around the world. And let's start here locally, and then I'll broaden it out. But in New York, especially over the last year and a half, you've seen less international travel, less China. You've seen less Brazil, right? You've seen more Canada. It's cheaper, and it's right here. But you've seen less of that coming into New York. Now, we had a really good holiday season before it got crazy cold here. And Broadway was sold out. Hotel occupancy was, I think, north of 85%, which is really good for the city. And the spending was happening. You couldn't get a restaurant table, a reservation, even if you tried. Even if you had the premium cards, it was hard to get a table. That said, it's a different mix of traveler, and it's a less affluent traveler willing to spend. It's happening. You can see it and you can hear it in the streets, but it's not like it was a couple of years ago. And I think that's, there's some sentiment there that's driving that. Now, around the world, travel, when you think about the Middle East, that is on fire right now. That is super intense right now. Parts of Europe continue to be overwhelmed by tourists. They can't wait to get rid of us in Lisbon and in Florence right now because we're just all over the place. But that's everybody traveling to all these places. It feels like it's like, got to get to these places before they're not here anymore. The world changes so much that I don't remember what the Uffizi looks like. So you're seeing aggressive international travel. It's just not all coming to America anymore.
If you had to predict the next big disruption in luxury travel from a financial perspective, what do you think it'd be?
Space.
Okay.
No, I joke a little bit, but you know what? More and more anecdotally, I hear about people that I know who know people that are going into space. And that's not
That's
crazy.
expensive.
That's not that crazy of an ocean. It's a very short trip, as it turns out.
Yeah.
A lot of planning for that. But I think it's not necessarily disruption, but a continuation of the trend of this and that, right? It's and this has really been happening for a while, but I think travelers luxury travelers, but also, middle to higher income travelers. They want the experience plus the experience. So it's never just, I want to go to Paris anymore, or I want to go to Spain. It's, I want to go eat at these 3 restaurants.
Yeah.
Right. And stay at this place that I read about on Travel and Leisure. And I want to take in a soccer game.
Yeah.
Right. So any platforms that allow you to combine all of those experiences, those are going to do very well. Concierge travel, I think, is going to continue to do well. I was at the ILTM Expo in Cannes. First time I was there, blew my mind, first of all.
Amazing, isn't it?
I go to a lot of conferences. That blew my mind.
Yeah.
That showed you the appetite.
Yeah.
Right? That it is strong right now. I couldn't believe.
Largest it had ever been, too, when I saw you there.
I couldn't believe the exhibits. I couldn't believe who was there and how they were representing and how packed it was and how engaged people were. I go to a lot of conferences. You don't typically see that type of engagement. Everybody wanted a piece of everything.
Yes.
That tells you what their clients want. Their clients want that, and they want the experience folded in with the other experience because they want the unforgettable moments that they're going to remember forever, capture, and put on Instagram.
It was interesting, too, right? Because the largest ILTM yet, it's outgrowing Cannes, but there's no better place in the world to have it, And it's incredible, isn't it, how the power of the travel advisor and how much business they're bringing through.
Yeah, it's weird because we were talking about disruption, in travel in general with travel agents at that level, but on the concierge side and the travel advisor, that feels like it's growing. It feels like it's a sector that has room to grow because, like I said, people want they want a unique experience. They want it to be planned for them. They want it to be done right. They want the thing that their friend said they had, but they want a little bit better so they can go back and brag about it. It's the same way, across almost every industry. I do a lot of lecturing and conferences on wine and wine collecting, and it's always, I want the thing that nobody else can have. It's that rarity, that moment that is precious to you, that is almost priceless these days.
Totally. Are you seeing anything in wine that's? I had been reading that that the values have been dropping a little bit. Is that accurate or no?
It's absolutely accurate.
Okay.
Now, it's been a trend that's been going on for a while. Now, I talk about this with my good friend Ray Isle, the executive wine editor for Food and Wine, all the time. He's like, yeah, but it's been around for about 25,000 years. So it's been through these types of markets before.
It's like gold.
Yeah.
You can feel it.
But wine went through a thing where a lot of the big winemakers, the prestige winemakers, were really pricing their wines at astronomical prices, and there was an appetite for it, both from wealthy U.S. consumers, but also from abroad, from China, from the Middle East, from Europe. People were willing to pay a lot. As it turns out, for the Lafite Rothschilds of the world. And so that their secondary wines, their tertiary wines, they were also pricing high. It took the whole market higher into an inflated, frothy place where it just didn't make sense anymore when the bottom fell out. P.S., there's a demographic trend of the fact that people just don't drink as much as we used to.
Right.
Some of that is we're just trying to be healthier. Some of that is their alternatives. Some of that is GLP-1s. That's having a significant effect on the beverage industry. It's also going to affect the travel industry, by the way.
Oh, it absolutely.
And so you're seeing this decline in alcohol consumption and sales in general. But as Ray says, wine's been around for a minute and it's been
It'll be okay.
before. It'll be okay.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned it with the GLP-1s because we look at that data and it was actually last summer, right, that it was sort of GLP-1s drove more travel to south of France than Italy, for example, because people wanted to go to beach clubs. They wanted to show off their new skinny bodies. They wanted to not eat. And Italy is all about eating.
Yeah, stop stuffing me with pasta. I want to show off the leopard skin Speedo. Let's go.
Exactly. And so it was so interesting to see that. And if people aren't going to wake up to that, it's a problem. I mean, it will be a problem. You have to reinvent.
Yeah, wellness travel. You're talking about trends that it's not like it just got here either.
No,
That's been emerging for a while, but people want that. They want, and there's extreme wellness travel going on too. I got a friend who's going into a cave of darkness for 10 days for a deep meditation followed by a resort stay to get some herbal wraps after that. And he's paying a premium for it.
I was going to say,
couldn't be more excited.
Yeah, you can charge as much as you want for those too. It seems like the price tag doesn't matter on that.
Yeah, they don't even need a room. Just put me in a dark cave.
Yeah, that's got to have good margin. Well, thank you, Caleb. I love to finish with my 3 signature rapid fire questions. What personal travel are you most excited about next?
Well, one of my daughters is going to be taking a semester in Africa.
Oh. Okay.
So I am really excited about going, a little worried about that, but I'm really excited about going, either, picking her up on the back end of that and taking a family trip through parts of Africa that we haven't been to, and that's coming up next fall, so I'm really excited about it.
Which country is she going to?
She is going to Kenya.
Okay.
So we're going to do some exploring around there, but it's also the first time as a family we'll have been in Africa. So
I'm sure I hear safaris are just extraordinary. Speaking of experiential travel.
Yes. I will be scouring our travel and leisure issues for the best tips on that as well.
Perfect. The show is all about innovation and moving forward, but as you know, especially with investing, right, the past shapes the future. What do you miss about the glamorous days of travel?
It's not that glamorous, but the old station wagon trips, where you could put the seat down in the back, and my sister and I, and we'd be picking on each other or
slapping each other.
Putting our Walkmans on, and just kicking back, and the pillows when you could do that in the back seats of the station wagon with the family.
Love it.
I kind of miss that. I came out of I was a kid in the 70s and 80s, and that's what it was. Or going with my grandparents in the Oldsmobile, and we had the snacks in the car. That's not glamorous, but that was just
no, it is glamorous.
That's just good. Good-hearted stuff that I miss that. You can get in almost anything you want in travel these days. You can be as bougie as you want, but I kind of just miss that. Packing it up, putting on the radio, and hitting the road.
Time and simplicity, and simplicity is the ultimate form of luxury, so it is glamorous, actually. That's great. Moving forward, right, what innovation in travel today doesn't exist that you think should?
Well, I think it's pretty much getting there. And, we have so much data about ourselves, and we're tracking our bodies, and we're tracking everything. When you land at you're taking a 12-hour trip over to the Middle East or to Europe or down to South America, where I go pretty often, your body goes through some stuff.
Yeah.
So I know that at some point in time, my watch and my phone is going to tell me, when you land, drink X amount of this, go to this cafe for an infusion of that. And then you should probably have this for dinner. I've already made you a reservation at your favorite churrascaria in Rio. So I think that's going to happen, where it's just going to be all planned out. I'm not even have to think about it anymore. I know that's happening. I don't know if I necessarily want it, but it's going to be happening, and you just got to get ready for it. But there's so much out there that there's data is become the currency of the 21st century. So the more we have, the more that these things are going to be sort of curtailed and curated for us.
Thanks, Caleb. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching this episode of Luxury Travel Innovators. Be sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. See you next time.